Well, hello everybody, nice to see you here. I've spent almost all of my professional career teaching, writing, and researching about immigration, race and ethnic relations, why people don't get along, and how they could possibly get along. A lot of research has been done over the years, but one of the most interesting and rewarding ones that I've ever done is the one I'd like to talk to you about now. When I learned about these schools with their dual mission of providing a quality education for both males and females, but also to promote inter-ethnic dialogue and harmony, not by lecturing, but by example, I was curious to see how effective they were, but also how culture might impact upon them. And so, what I did was over a 4-year period, interview hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of students, parents, teachers, educators who were administrators, as well as financial supporters. I looked at schools in Albania, and in Bosnia, in Kazakhstan, Poland, Romania, Canada, and the United States. I looked at schools that were co-ed or single-sex schools. I looked at youngsters in middle school, high school, college, and graduate school. What is in the book are their voices. From all the interviews we did, we looked at how did students who were Christian find the experience in a Muslim majority country and in a Hizbut school, and vice versa. How did Muslim students in Christian-dominated school countries like Romania and Poland, how did they react? And in multicultural societies, more secular, like Canada and the United States, what was the impact of culture? What was the different, how did the different histories and cultures play or not play a role in the overall mission of these schools? It was a long study. It was very involved. This field research, looking at all these types of schools, types of people, and our findings were pretty uniform. Yes, there were certain impacts. Kazakhs loving to have their language back, having a very different feel for their schools than did people in Bosnia, which had been ravaged in the 1990s by a so-called euphemism of ethnic cleansing. The people were murdered, thousands and thousands of them. I'll give you one quick little anecdote. I was in Bosnia and a TV cameraman, the father of a 15-year-old girl who had lost family, and spoke about all that had once been and had been gone, and how his daughter came back from the school more open-minded, more receptive, and had started to make good friends, close friends with people of another faith. And he said to me, if any school can do that, and the tears are now streaming down his eyes, if any school can do that, I want to help that school. And though he could ill afford it, he became a financial supporter. We found that kind of story all the time. The parents were proud of their children's accomplishments. They frequently talked about this open-mindedness and receptivity to the other, the different people that had not been part of their lifestyle or orientation or behavior or attitudes before that. The fact that bullying had been eliminated. In some of these schools, like Romania and Poland, parents complained about teachers just kind of phoning it in, not really interested in much, just doing their job, and not taking a personal interest. What we discovered in country after country was this incredible bond between teacher and student. Sometimes it reflected itself in an ongoing culture, an attribute of Turkish culture, which is tea time. Tea time in these schools was a time when a teacher would sit down with about 15 or so students and just talk of what it meant to be a good person, and just share informally interactions. In most of these countries where it was able to be done, the teachers would at one time each semester visit each student's home with their own family, creating a greater bond. There was more to it than their visits. They were looking at the economic conditions. Should some of these students get greater scholarships, for example? There were many things going on throughout this. I think the thing that pleased me more than anything else as I gathered all this information were how many young girls in each and every one of the countries, of all 7 countries, each and every country, the young girls were saying, this school has given me more confidence in myself. I feel I can do things now that I didn't think I could. What a beautiful thing to build up self-esteem and build up self-image. Too many times in too many countries with patriarchal societies, women are seen in a lesser role. Not in these schools. Women were encouraged time and again. In too many countries with patriarchal societies, women are seen in a lesser role. Not in these schools. Women were encouraged time and again. When I wrote this book, one of the things you think about is, what should be the title? Well, the title is Hearts and Minds. There's a very real reason for that, because that is the dual purpose of these Hizmet schools. They are, everywhere I saw, was state-of-the-art equipment, facilities. There was no question, as I observed classes, that a very effective learning was going on. It was very effective. The STEM subjects, the science, the technology, engineering, the math subjects for males and females. But it was also very clear the heart was also being affected. Time and again, in each of these countries with their different cultures and histories and ethnographic makeup, what was happening was the opening of the heart as well as the opening of the mind. And so many students said, I have a friend now who's Muslim I never had before, or I have a Christian I never had before, or Jewish, whatever. It was really incredible. And so that's the title of the book. If you can see it from where you're seated, the heart is actually an air balloon. And the symbolism of this is very real, because what it is the spreading of acceptance, of interethnic harmony without the border being seen. It was a very deliberate choice on our part. When I wrote the book, and now I say to you, I had 2 different target audiences in mind. There are many of you in this room who are connected or have had an experience with one of these schools, the Hizmet schools. You already know from your own life experience what that was. Some of you were motivated to give back what you received and became part of the school system. You already know about them. What I hope the book will do for you is not just reinforce that kind of feeling and attitude that you have, but learn from the voices of people of all different backgrounds how it affected them. There's, I think, tremendous fulfillment for you, besides the personal fulfillment you already have from your own personal experiences. But I had a larger audience in mind. I wanted this book to be read by people who know nothing about Hizmet, who have no idea, or were perhaps bamboozled a little bit by the false, I don't want to say fake news, I'm not going there, by the false kinds of reports that forced the closure of these schools in Turkey, of people who were persecuted for no reason other than that they believed in each other. And that's what should be taught. So the intent of the book is also to reach people who don't know what a wonderful type of school system this is. I said to my colleagues many a time, I wish I could bottle it. I'm an educator myself. I've taught high school, I teach college, I taught graduate school. There's certain things I learned and grew as a person because of what I saw and what I experienced. And I thought, how could I end my talk with you? And I was reminded of a story that maybe a couple of you might have heard me say at different contexts, but when I think of what these schools do, when I think of what the Peace Islands Institute is, when I think of what the mission is of all these kinds of organizations and schools, I think this story is very appropriate. So if I may, I would like to close by telling you this little story. It involves an old man who lived in this primitive type village, and each day he would come out of his hut to escape the heat of the sun and sit under the shade of a very old tree. He did this not only to escape the heat, but the fact of the matter is the tree was far older than he was, and it gave him a tremendous perspective. And each day as he sat beneath the tree, the people of the village would come around and seek his advice. They respected him for the wisdom of his years, his life's experience. They wanted to learn from him. They asked him questions, he answered. But there were these two young men in the village who had never amounted to anything, who were ne'er-do-wells, who found it easier to criticize than create. They despised the old man for all the wonderful wisdom, respect that he held. And they decided the only thing they could do, because he was not like them and they were not like him, was to destroy him. And so they plotted how they would do it. And for a while they could come up with nothing, but finally one of them came up with a scheme, and he said, I know how we will do this. I will take a bird, we will capture a bird, I will take a bird and I will hold it in my hand. And I will say to the old man, is the bird alive or dead? If he says it's alive, I will crush it in my hand before I open it. If he says the bird is dead, I will open my hand and let the bird fly away. Either way, he will be wrong. The people will see he does not know all. They will see that we have outwitted him, that we are smarter than him. And so on the very next day, this event, as I just explained it to you, unfolded. They stood before the old man, holding the bird. And one of them said to him, tell me, old man, if you are so wise, is the bird I hold in my hand alive or dead? And the people gasped at the audacity, at the tone, at the challenge of their beloved old man. And they all looked at him to see how would he answer the question. And the old man looked directly into the eyes of his questioner, paused for just a moment, and then he answered. And this is what he said. It is as you wish. Now think how wise that answer is. A moment ago, no matter what he said, he would be wrong. Now, no matter what they do, he is right. Well, that's my story, but I want to close it this way. We are here together, celebrating Ramadan in friendship. You have heard what Ramadan is about. And it's about the goodness and playing down the negative. The whole celebration of the Peace Islands Institute is for us to gather together as we have. Right now, in this room, each and every one of us is filled with that kind of feeling and thought. But this dinner will end. This day will pass. And each of us are going to live out our lives day by day, month after month, year after year, and all the time that God gives us. How will you live your life? How will you encourage the interethnic dialogue that we talk about today? I have no idea what you will do. I have no idea how you will act then. I only know one thing. It is as you wish. Thank you.